We are not doing a political interview. This is not about your first 100 days and how everything went and how do you
Right.
feel. This is a conversation about womanhood, about the journey, about how we all journey beyond, no
All
matter
right.
what level we get to as women, and in particular women of color. We
Okay.
want to be able to connect with women, to be able to know their stories and feel like, you know what, she's a mayor, but she's a woman, she's human,
Oh,
she's a mom, she's a career woman, so we want to tap into that vein of Mayor Keisha Lance Bottom.
all right.
So just to start off, I mean, once again, thank you for meeting with us and sitting down and having this interview. So I'm gonna jump right in. Like, what is Mayor Keisha Lance Bottom's superpower, and when did she know she had it?
Oh, that's a great question. I think my superpower really is believing beyond my circumstances. I've never competed with, I'm not a competitive person in terms of competing with other people. It's always been about besting myself. And I think this is just this gift that I got from my dad that I just dream really, really big. And it just looks as if it should be to me. And sometimes it seems extraordinary to other people or just really outlandish. But, God puts it before me and I just go for it. So I think it's just the superpower is the ability to dream big.
That's awesome because when I listened to you, like right after the election, and you were on V103, I think I heard you on V103 talking about like you got this, like almost it came to you while you were sitting at church, like you were supposed to run, like
That's
this
right.
was
Yeah.
this was it. And so, what does spirituality mean to you? You talk about the superpower of dreaming big, but what does spirituality mean, and how does that play into your life, into your role as the mayor?
It means everything to me. My grandmother, I had a praying grandmother, and she walked and talked about God daily in the context of everything that was going on around us. She would just always remind us all things work for the good of those who love the Lord.
Yeah.
And she just had a heart for God, and so did my grandfather. And so it's always been a part of my life. And, there's some people who live in church day in and day out, and I didn't grow up that way, but certainly connected in a very meaningful way. And people around me who believed that there was a higher power. And it, for me, has been about having a relationship with God and being prayerful and having daily conversations. And sometimes that means that the answers are very clear to me.
Yeah.
And sometimes it means I'm not hearing anything.
You gotta
which
wait,
means
wait on the Lord.
that's right. That I have to just be
Yeah.
still. And that's the hardest part. And that's probably what you heard me talking about on V103, that it really was this external pressure to make a decision about running for mayor. And it went on and on and on. And I remember my husband and I were on vacation. It was during the summer. And I had decided that God was going to make it clear to me by the end of that vacation whether or not I was to run for mayor. And my husband and I had one of the biggest arguments we've ever had. And at that time, people were already getting in the race, and I said, I can't decide because God hasn't told me this is what I should do. And it was not until, I believe, that November that I just knew. And I remember when my husband and I had that argument, he said, how will you know? I said, I don't know how I will know. But just as I knew when I walked in my house, it was the house we were supposed to buy.
Yeah.
Just as I knew when we had found the child that we were to adopt, I know that we'll know. And in a very real, spiritual, emotional way, I knew that day in church. And I was overcome. And I remembered I couldn't get up out of my seat. The church was over.
Wow.
Because I couldn't stop crying. And I think part of it was I knew this is going to be a heavy, heavy weight. But I had been waiting so long to have the answer. And even with all of the challenges that are going on in the city that I've dealt with over the past 100 or so days, my conversations with God have changed a little bit. And I said to God the other day, I said, I trust you. And I know that he put me here for such a time as this.
Yeah.
And he's not going to leave me. So I'm still trusting and believing that he's going to guide me and the people around me. And he's with me always.
Isn't that like the beauty of surrender? You know,
It is.
when we surrender to God's will, when we surrender to God's way, when we surrender to the plans that he has for our lives, it's amazing what happens when it's not our will, but thy will be done, right? And when we say
Absolutely.
that to ourselves repeatedly over and over and over again, like God continues to order our steps, you know?
Yeah.
And there you are sitting in this office for service at this time because you allow God to order your steps. And you said, not my will, but thy will. I know you have something bigger for me. I know you have the plans for me, but okay, how can I trust you enough to just surrender to this time? And I think that that's what all women really are battling, you know, as they journey to forge careers and marriage and families is, how do I surrender, you know, and still get those things that I'm so ambitious for, you know, that I'm so striving for. And you said something when you were talking about the sign that you were getting and waiting. You said that you and your husband got into one of the biggest arguments that you've ever had. I think that most women look at marriage and married women as like, oh, she's got it. She's got the career. Her husband's a big time executive. They have the beautiful family. Girl, they even got twins. You know what I'm saying? Like, they just blessed, girl. Blessed on blessed, you know? And so how have you dealt with heartbreak over the years? Like, what is your recipe? You know, because every woman, no matter what level she's at, has experienced some sort of heartbreak. What's your recipe for getting over heartbreak?
I love the way that you just described it, surrender. And that's what it is. And even in very challenging times, again, remembering what my grandmother always would say, and that's a reminder of the importance of what we speak over our children.
Yeah.
And she would just say, all things work for the good of those who love the Lord. So even in the most challenging times, and there have been so very many, I remember that in my spirit. And trying to start a family and going through the struggle of that and the heartbreak of in vitro fertilization, not one time, not twice, but 3 times.
Wow.
And even the build up to that, and just knowing that there was this other plan that God had to have, and now I have 4 beautiful children who I otherwise wouldn't have had it worked out any other way. And you know, it's just about believing that if you just stand and just wait to get to the other side, there is another side. There is the other side. And it's hard to do that when you're in the midst of trials and tribulations. It's really, really hard.
Yeah.
And sometimes it really is just as simple as saying, God, I trust you. Sometimes that's all you have the strength to say. And I think really for me, it just is about being an example to other women, other people who've had struggles, to know it's the grace of God that makes it look easy. It's nothing easy.
It's the under the water, the duck.
Exactly.
It's paddling furiously under that water.
Yes, I just shared with someone. I said, you know, I feel like I'm treading water some days. But sometimes that's all you need. That's enough.
Yeah.
And, you know, God is still able. And I believe when he puts something in your spirit, that all we have to do is stand in it and do what he calls us to do. And sometimes that means it's going to get really bad, but it's mountains and valleys. So in this office, some hour by hour, it's a mountain, and then it's a valley, and then you're back up again.
Yeah.
But I'm grateful for the experience.
So how do you went through a election year, campaigning, all that good stuff, plenty of mudslinging and all that stuff happens along the way, and that's par for the course. But how do you kind of deal when you see your peers or competitors getting things that you wanted that you didn't necessarily get in that moment?
Oh, that's really hard. And sometimes you have to thank God for unanswered prayers. Sometimes it's in the form of people. It can be things.
Yeah.
And, you know, I talk a lot about my spirituality, and I have to be very careful. I don't want people to think that I'm a saint, because I'm not. It means that I'm human, and that when I fall, I just trust that God forgives me, and he picks me back up. And when I ran for my first office in 2008, it was for a Superior Court judge seat, and I lost. And I remember sitting in the middle of my floor going, God, you told me to do it, and I did it. Now what? I knew there would be something bigger and better. I had no idea what that bigger and better would be. On the other side of that, 1 year later, I ran for city council, not even thinking about being mayor of Atlanta. But it was a stepping stone, and I thank God for not winning that seat on Superior Court.
Change your whole trajectory.
I'd be miserable, for one. But again, thankful for unanswered prayers, because at that time I had peers who were on the bench, who were making more progress in their respective careers, and I wanted all of those things, and at times sometimes envious of those things.
Yeah.
And now I sit on the other side and I go, thank you, Lord, for not giving me what I thought I wanted. And like I said, sometimes it's in the form of people.
Yeah.
Sometimes I'm thankful for even the people I dated who my mother prayed away.
Listen, my mama is still praying away some people.
And I'm just grateful that they were moved on to somebody else.
Look, my mom used to always say, you know, when I was in college, I would bring home, like, you know, oh, this is, you know, my friend, my boyfriend, and she'd be like, I like him. I like him as a person. I just don't like him for you.
Oh my gosh. That's exactly what my mother would say.
I just don't like him for you. I like him as a person. I think he's very nice. He's a very nice young man. I
Just
just
not
don't
for
like him
you.
For you.
That's
and
right.
when she met my brother-in-law, I have a twin sister, and when she met my sister's husband, she knew instantly. She was like, when she brought him home for Thanksgiving, and she kissed a whole lot of frogs too, but she was like, I knew that he was the one. But that, you know, your mama knows. She
does know.
She's like, I did not carry you for 9 months and raise you. You are fruit of my tree. I know exactly what you need.
That's absolutely right. So, you know, we just have to be patient and believe, and also be grateful.
Yeah.
When things and people are moved out of our way.
Absolutely. So, you know, I see you on Instagram. You doing races, and you out here living your fit life. You know.
Oh my gosh.
What is your favorite exercise or workout regimen? Like, what do you like to do to stay in shape?
Well, I'm trying to get back in shape. It was really interesting, this campaign. I put on 20 pounds.
Really?
And I thought it was a fake 20. This was a real 20. And it's real, because when the campaign ended, the 20 pounds
They
stayed. But during the middle of the campaign, my knee literally just went out one day. I couldn't stand. So some of the forums, if people were watching the forums, the other candidates would stand up and answer their questions. I'm like, oh, they're trying to make me look horrible. And I couldn't stand, because I would have to walk like 10 steps before I could put weight on my knee. It was very bizarre. So running makes me sane. And one day, post-campaign, I said, I'm just going to try and run a little bit and see how far I can get. And then I could run 3 miles all of a sudden. So I don't know what that was about during the campaign, but I'm back into running, and I have a trainer who I work out with a few days a week. But I looked in the mirror last week. My face is broken out. like I'm in ninth grade.
It is
and-
not. Like, I'm looking at you like, looking all beautiful. Stop this.
Well, I got made up for you today.
We way
so-
more critical on ourselves than we should be.
But
Yeah.
I looked at my face and I looked at my body and I made a commitment to myself that I was going to leave this office with a waistline, some good skin, and a good mind.
Come on now.
So-
Come on, church.
That's right. And some hair, because that was the other thing. I was pulling my hair during the campaign.
Well, the body keeps
So.
a score. People don't understand, like, stress and all these, like, outside forces really do affect our body internally. It
goodness.
affects everything that we do. Like, everything is connected.
It is.
Mind, body, spirit is all connected. And when we really make that connection, it's like life just opens up, you know?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, life really opens up. So, what's your go-to when you're out and about, all shaking hands and kissing babies out in the city? What's your favorite healthy meal on the go?
My favorite healthy meal. Now, that's a good. I love a grilled salmon salad.
Yes,
That's probably my favorite. But I also love lamb chops. That's
Lamb
just
chops.
my absolute favorite. Maybe not as healthy, but it's a good lamb chop.
What's your favorite place in the city to have lamb chops?
McCormick's Steakhouse.
McCormick's, yeah.
Yes.
When I was a
No,
meat eater,
not McCormick's. Gosh, I'm thinking the seafood place. My favorite, McKendrick's.
Oh, McKendrick's
Steakhouse. I'm sorry.
in Dunwoody, yeah.
Yes, that's my
when
favorite
I was
for
a
lamb
meat
chops.
meat eater, lamb chops, lobster bar up next to the St. Regis was like.
I don't know that I've had their lamb chops.
Like literally, that was like the only place I ever ate lamb ever was
Wow.
Chops Lobster Bar.
Well, I'm gonna have to check that out.
You have to go. They definitely did them up. It's been years, but back in the day, girl,
Well,
you would have been going to get some lamb chops.
I'm a lamb chop snob, so that and a cake snob. I love sweets.
Oh yeah,
Love cakes.
I definitely am. So I know our time is gonna be winding down, and you have to get back to your wonderful position, and we don't want to keep you. So we're gonna do like some rapid fire, kind of quick, fun questions
All right.
for Mayor Keisha Lance Bottoms. Okay, so if we pass the mayor, the aux cord in the car, what are you listening to?
Hi, what am I listening to? Kendrick Lamar.
Hey, come on. Okay. I was not expecting you to say that. Yes. Come through, Kendrick. Okay. What is your spirit animal?
My spirit animal, I would have to say that would be a goat because I'm a Capricorn.
Okay.
So they're not a goat, but they're a.
But we will put you as a goat and like acronym it G-O.
Yeah, what
It's
is a Capri-
greatest of all time. We'll do that one for you.
What is the Capricorn symbol? It's not a. It's a. You gotta look that up.
Girl, I don't know because I'm a Leo, so I only care about the
What
lion
is the
show.
It's now this is bothering me. Can somebody Google that for me? What is it? It's not a goat. Okay.
Sea goat.
Well, I was close.
Sea
Yeah.
goat.
Okay, a sea goat.
A sea goat. Yes.
All right.
All right. Spirit animal is a sea goat. Live-in massage therapist or live-in chef?
Massage therapist. I can cook for myself.
Me too. That's the same thing I said. Last book you couldn't put down.
Wow, that's a great one. The last book I couldn't put down, I would say that's tough because I'm reading like 4 books right now. I'll just say the one I'm reading now, Good to Great.
Good. to
First
great.
line in the book, good is the enemy of great.
Yes. You gonna make me go pick that up today.
It's really good.
Okay. Good to great. Fill in the blank. In finding my own place of belonging, I had to. In finding my own place of belonging, I had to.
In finding my own place of belonging, I had to learn discipline. And that was discipline not to buy into what other people's narratives were for me, not to buy into what the social media comments were, and not to buy into what other people's hopes and dreams were for me.
Yeah.
It's about being true to myself.
Isn't that like the hardest thing to learn along the journey? Is to put other people's comments down, other
Yes.
people's stuff down. Let me not pick up your bags. My bags is heavy enough. Like,
Absolutely, and it's hard not to want to know what people think, but sometimes you can get derailed with their thoughts,
Yeah.
and it can cloud your own. So
Yeah.
I'm thankful for discipline.
Discipline. Last question. What are you most grateful for in this moment?
I'm most grateful for my family in
Yeah.
this moment. My family keeps me grounded, and I don't take it for granted. There are so many people in my family who have sacrificed so much, and they sacrifice it every day. My children sacrifice their time with me. My husband sacrifices just my being present. My mother sacrifices in that she is at my house every morning at 6:30 in the morning.
Wow.
To make sure my children have a full breakfast, and I could go on and on with my sister and my brother. So I'm grateful for my family. They keep me grounded, and they love me for me. And if I were running to work on the back of a garbage truck, or if I were running to be mayor, they would support me all the same.
Yeah. So before we end, this just kind of came to me. One piece of wisdom that you will leave for every woman who would hear the sound of your voice. One piece of wisdom.
God speaks to us every day. He speaks to us throughout the day. It really is about us listening. And sometimes listening means that you just have to be still and know what his voice sounds like to you. And know that when he puts something in your spirit, that he will provide. And it doesn't matter what the world says about it. It doesn't matter what the world thinks about it. If that is the path that he will have you to follow, then he will give you all the provision you need. So listen for that voice. And sometimes it means closing your ears to the world. But when he puts it in you, he'll provide for you.
Absolutely. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
This was a pleasure. Couldn't ask
Thank
for a
you.
better interview. Thank
I'm
you.
so glad you were
Thank
here.
you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I needed this today.
Oh,